So long. It's good to connect.
I know, me too. All right, so we're on Facebook now, and I'm just gonna get
Can I
us.
share it again? Can I reshare it to my Facebook?
Please,
How do
please,
I do that?
please do. All right. Great, we're on Instagram now. Sweet. Do you see it on our page to share it?
Yep, I'm here. I got you.
Great. So, hey everyone, we are here again with another JamTube episode, this time with Hawah Kasat, and we were just talking before we got live of how excited we're able to be here in each other's presence after so long, knowing each other as well. So really stoked to have you on our lineup, by the way, because it's been, I feel like 7 years coming since, I first met you in 2016, and I think it was 2016. It could have even been in 2015. But, obviously the work that you did in DC, continue to do, and all around the world now that you live with your backpack on your back, and all the things that you're doing. So I'm excited to kind of share with our crowd here who you are, because you're new to our lineup, though you're not new to the DC, DMV, Virginia area. But you are new to us, and you are going to be our first official real MC, which I know the bands are going to be really stoked to have, so that we can keep the energy going throughout the night, because we have some really amazing talent, and I'm so excited for you to finally see what Flow Jam's all about and be such a integral role, so you're just being thrown in, and I'm really grateful for that.
Me too. And it's great to see you after so long. I don't think I've seen you since we started lockdowns with COVID and all that. I used to run into you in DC on the street and in the park, our small DC community, so much overlap within the arts and the music and the yoga spaces. But I moved out of DC in August of 2020. I left, and after 20 years of calling DC home, I decided it was time for me to put things into storage. I think COVID was part of that impetus. I was living downtown in the center of Mount Pleasant, Adams Morgan, and everything was shut down, closed, and it just felt like I was paying really high rent to live in a place where everything was just shut down. And I was also living in a really big apartment building, an elevator, and I just wanted to get out of the city. And I thought I would go back. I moved everything into storage. I left. I figured I'd go back to DC one day, and it just has not happened. And I don't know if I'll be moving back to DC in that way again,
So where have you landed now? Where are you right now?
Right now, at the moment, I am at the border of West Virginia in the Allegheny Mountains of the Appalachian mountain chain, at Roots to Sky Sanctuary. This is a BIPOC-led and driven and created land sanctuary, healing arts center, and soon to be regenerative farm. We have 125 acres out here. This has been one of my home bases since I got on the road. So I come here often, and I'll spend a couple of weeks at a time here every couple of months, working on finishing the shala back here, the ceremony house and the retreat house. We've got about 25 beds. We're working on creating glamping tents and tree houses. So, just turning this into a space for healing, ceremony, retreats. So this is where I am right now at the moment. And I'll be spending a good amount of my summer here in this kind of area, which is about 3 hours from Washington, D.C.
Oh, it's 3 hours. Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, we're a little further from DC. It's about 3 hours.
So it's on the border of West Virginia and Maryland?
Maryland, yeah, we're near Thomas, West Virginia. Deep
Okay.
Creek is the part of Maryland that we're next to.
Oh, okay.
Deep Creek to Oakland, Maryland.
Wow. Congratulations, by the way, on doing that, because it's a lot of people's dreams and you're doing it. Like when I saw that, I was just so elated because you're creating the model that a lot of people want to see happening more and more of. So it's just so important. Thanks for your work. I know it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but it's a labor of love. And it was kind of like a good pivot for me because I left One Common Unity is the nonprofit organization that you were with. That's how I met you when you were working at One Common Unity. And, I helped to start that organization in the year 2000, which is 23 years ago. And I've been the executive director and the CEO of that organization for 20 years. We do incredible work in DC. We're still active and thriving with a mental health program, with therapists, and we work in like over 20 schools throughout DC. And I'm still involved in some small ways, but it was time for me to transition. I just feeling like as my spirit was really just being called to being in nature more, the mountains, the ocean. I just was feeling like after 20 years of working in the schools in inner city DC, it can get exhausting on the spirit. The time was ripe, and again, COVID kind of created that opportunity for me to be like, okay, let me get out of the city and I love being out in nature.
You flew out to nature, and also all around the world. I want to hear a little bit about your time in New Zealand and also your retreat in Cambodia. Or was it Cambodia?
It was Cambodia. Yeah.
I know those are like two really different experiences, but maybe if you could give us some highlights of what it was like, because I love New Zealand. I've been there, traveled around there for 2 weeks on the Kiwi tour bus. I actually have a coach that lives in New Zealand, and then I've never been to Cambodia. I wanted to, but I spent a month in Thailand traveling around instead of actually getting out because I love Thailand so much. So
yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, so for me, the way I've been able to make this sustainable, I don't have a bed anywhere that's like my bed. I don't have a bedroom that's my bedroom. All my stuff is still in boxes. And I've literally been living out of like a suitcase and my drum bag and my flute bag and my yoga bag. Like that's what I've had for the past it's almost coming up on 3 years in August that I've been living this way. But I don't consider myself like a traveler. That would get exhausting. I'm not like traveling every few days somewhere new. Like even when I come here to Roots to Sky, I come here for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
yeah.
I unpack what I have. I kind of just get into a rhythm and then I'll move to the next place. And that's kind of what's made it sustainable. So when I first left DC, I went to Peru. And I went to Peru and moved to Peru for like 3 months, but I wasn't like traveling through Peru. Like a lot of people go, they want to see all of Peru. That's not sustainable for me because that becomes exhausting, right? So I'm still working remotely. I'm teaching. I'm doing all this stuff. Like I need to have stable internet. I need to have a rhythm. I want to have a kitchen. I want to, be able to do all the little things that allow me to sleep well at night. So I'll find a place and I'll rent a place. Like in Peru, I was in Mancura for almost 3 months and I rented this room in a house that was like literally 25%. It was like 75% cheaper than what I paid to live in DC. And I was living on the ocean, on the beach in Peru for 3 months with like fresh fruit. And it was like Like it was like $600 a month, you know, and I lived in the same place for 3 months. And then I would explore like the areas around it on weekends, but I'm working through the week and I'm like exploring,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like creating a home base. And then I moved from there to Colombia, and I was in Colombia for a couple of months doing the same thing. I moved to Guatemala last winter for a few months, doing the same thing on Lake Atitlan. I got a place, I stay in one place. So for people that are interested in this kind of lifestyle, I'm just kind of giving you my pro tip, which
Yeah.
don't ask yourself, don't try to go see all of Guatemala. Find a place, if you're able to work remotely, find a place and rent it for like 3 months and just use that as like your home, and then explore from there when you can, but don't try to go see the whole country.
Right.
And that's what I've been doing now for almost 3 years. And this is one of my home bases. So I do that here. I come here for a few weeks at a time. Every few months, I'll stop in here. I don't really come into DC much anymore, except for like maybe a day or two to visit some friends. But when I was in New Zealand, what took me to New Zealand was my sister. My sister lives in New Zealand right now. She moved there with her family from Minnesota. And so she's been living there since COVID started. And she, she works there. My niece and my nephew are there. They're 13 and 11 years old. And she has a house in Rotorua that they rent with their family. They've got an extra bedroom. So I said, I'm just going to go to New Zealand for like 2 months and stay with my sister. So I went to New Zealand for the whole winter pretty much and just lived with my sister and her family in New Zealand, and stayed in their extra bedroom. And I did travel and see a lot of New Zealand because I was there for so long, but I wasn't like in New Zealand every few days traveling somewhere new. I was like living in this house, my sister's house. And then I went to Cambodia, led a yoga retreat in Cambodia, which was kind of nice. So from New Zealand, I flew to Cambodia. We had a beautiful, beautiful retreat to Angkor Wat, and
Yeah,
like
really.
visited temples and museums, and learned a lot about the culture. It was a great group of students that came, and we practiced a lot of yoga, asana, and we went to monasteries. We practiced meditation in monasteries. So I really, really enjoyed that. That was a nice sort of way to keep myself moving. The winter. Yeah.
That retreat looked amazing. It was definitely on my list. I had a scheduling conflict, but I hope that you do repeat ones over there.
Yeah, it's possible. We'll see what happens.
See. Did you plan that because you were going to be in New Zealand, or did that just happen to work out?
I planned that like as a way, I'm typically planning and scheduling out like 4 to 6 months. So I knew, the retreat to Cambodia, I put that on my calendar a year ahead of time because it takes me about 9 months to promote and to let people know and to get students to register.
Yeah.
So I knew about a year ahead of time that Cambodia was going to be in February. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'll leave for New Zealand in the end of November. I'll be in New Zealand until February. I'll fly to Cambodia from New Zealand because it's pretty close relatively in the world. So like, it was kind of like all planned in terms of the flights, and I kind of knew where I was going.
Got you. That's good timing, actually. 9 months to like plan that out. That's nice.
Yeah.
So you're in Roots to Sky Sanctuary now, and you're going to be here for the summer. So you're new to Flow Jam. What are you most excited about to kind of see and do and participate in? I know you're going to be kind of involved in a lot, obviously, since you're emceeing our event. But yeah, what are you kind of like most excited about or curious about?
Well, hanging out with you for one.
Yes.
And
I'm excited for that too. Like I get a whole entire like 3 days in the same space with Hawah. That's
you're sweet. No, I feel the same way. And it's just like this reunion of all these incredible beings. Like I know like so many of the other presenters and teachers are like friends and just like part of this extended tribe of healers and practitioners. it just excites me to get time with people and to dial in and connect after so long. I love outdoor festivals in general. One of my favorite ways to like be with people. It's kind of like this picnic vibe outside, hanging out, finding some shade,
Mhm.
hosing down with some water. It's a good vibe. I don't know, the music. I'm excited for my collaboration with DJ Shango.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend of mine and just like a brother. And we've been recently on music, but also on curating ceremonial, like really powerful transcendental experiences that combine spoken word and asana movement and rituals. So like I'm really excited to be collaborating with him. And then of course I love holding space and activating space. So we'll have some time to play, maybe do some ninja training. I think that might be one of my workshop ideas that I put out to you all, was doing this like ninja training workshop, which combines like capoeira and movement and martial arts with like playful qigong. So yeah, those are the things I'm excited about.
Yay. We've never had, like I said, I don't think we've ever had a ninja class, ninja training with well, yeah, no, I don't think so. Capoeira, yes, and I don't even know how to pronounce that. I may have mispronounced it, but I'm definitely intrigued to experience it. So thank you for bringing that those amazing offerings, which leads me to a question. And I know we don't want to go too much longer, but I do want to hear like how Hawah became Hawah. Like, I know that's like a big story, but if you could like maybe give us like a little clip note version of like how you came to be so involved outside of what you were doing with one common unity, but like with your training and all the things that you have under your belt, like how did that all kind of start?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I guess it's another like pro tip in terms of like just how I've chosen to live my life. I'm a nerd, like a real geek. I will like become obsessed with learning something to the point where like for me, learning is like what drives my creativity and fuels my creativity. I love learning. I love finding teachers that I can like study with and train with and practice with. And to give you a little like kind of insight into my life and how I've been able to like really immerse myself in learning. For example, when I was really becoming clear that my dharma is that of as a teacher, I wanted to like study with the best teachers I could find. And so I would constantly spend long weekends in immersion programs. I love immersive learning. Like I can sit and study for 10 hours a day and do that for 2 weeks straight. And I often tell people like for me, that's often when like I can really like chisel under the surface. I feel like there's a lot of this like 60-minute yoga class, or somebody goes to a class for 60 minutes and they leave and they do that twice a week and they wonder why they're not progressing. And it's because it's just not enough time. We have to find a way. I know it's hard because a lot of us have full-time jobs, but I've made it the priority in my life to take time to spend my weekends, maybe not like watching TV all weekend, but rather going and like studying all weekend and learning all weekend with a teacher that I want to learn from. And those immersive experiences have really been critical in my own personal growth and development. In terms of like my commitment to like my planetary restoration and healing,
Mm-hmm.
I think that started from a young age. I was born in the East Coast of the United States in New Jersey. I spent many summers in India, in Mumbai. Mumbai is like my second home.
Okay.
And I've got some family lineage and roots that trace back to Rajasthan and India. So like I'm one of the few South Asian yoga teachers you see out in the world, right? Like that are in the US, at least in Western culture. Like it's hard to find people that are actually tracing their ancestry back to India that are actually teaching
Right.
yoga, which is from India, right? So like for me, it wasn't like I wanted to become a yoga teacher and
Mhm.
go to 200-hour yoga training. It was more like as a kid, I was growing up in a white suburban town in a middle class home in New Jersey. And I spent many summers in India, which deeply impacted me because I saw the deep privilege of having the access I did to education, to healthcare, to food, to electricity. I would travel to India and spend summers in India where, you know, my grandparents, I'm living in a 2-bedroom flat apartment with 14 of us sleeping on the floor, and there's running water for 2 hours in the morning, and that's it. And they have no electricity,
Mm.
no refrigerator. And this is like, I'm 8 years old, 12 years old, and I'm spending 2 months in this environment of pretty extreme poverty.
Mhm.
And then I'm traveling back to New Jersey and I'm doing all my schooling in the US and New Jersey. And I'm like being shuttled between these two very different worlds.
Mm.
And I'm being whiplashed and culture shocked throughout my childhood. And from a young age, I always was really confused and angry about the injustice of poverty and the way that a lot of my cousins didn't even have like shoes,
Mm.
um, you know, and like the wastefulness of Western culture and how much waste I would see when going to eat lunch in the school cafeteria and seeing trays filled with French fries and chicken nuggets being thrown into the trash, and then watching my grandfather with like, you know, literally like savoring and cherishing every grain of rice. Like it was just such a different world. And then to see that and to like connect to that as a kid, and then to also be like by osmosis, like learning, you know, the Bhagavad Gita and these texts that people study in their yoga teacher training programs, and the history of Vedanta, which is the birth of Hatha yoga, and all of this is stuff that like I would have conversations with my mom about as a little kid. You know, my mom is a bhakti yogini, so like I never wanted to be a yoga teacher. I just was sort of immersed in this culture and these traditions since I was a kid. And so ultimately, when you asked about like who's Hawah and how did I become Hawah, well, my commitment and the reason One Common Unity was such an important expression of my life is that I'm really like, for me, nonviolence and ahimsa, and the way that is such a root to the work of Dr. King and the civil rights movement and liberation from oppression and systems of oppression, all that was connected to me seeing what I felt was really unfair living conditions.
Mhm.
And so, and then my desire to somehow create healing in the world was also because while in New Jersey, I also was like subject to a lot of racism that I had to deal with on a daily basis growing up in a white suburban town, you know, where there was a lot of xenophobia and a lot of racism that would be hurled at me every day. So I think all of that created like the framework for me to kind of like want to see my life be a part of healing and creating places that were safe and welcoming for all people,
Yeah.
and accessible for all people. I think it was because of my own marginalization as a child that I was like, oh yeah, I really like, I want to make sure other kids don't have to deal with what I had to deal with. And so One Common Unity was an expression of that. It was a way to somehow like create these safe spaces in schools for kids to learn about healing and social justice and arts, and conflict resolution and leadership. That was what One Common Unity was. And then my other life, my side life, was like a mystic. explorer and poet that would go to India and continue to go to India. I've been to India maybe more than 17 or 20 times in my life. And I don't just go for a week. Like when I go, I'm going to visit family. I backpack and I travel when I'm in India, and I see, I go to ashrams, and I've studied and lived in ashrams because I want to immerse myself and really learn as much as I can. So that's kind of what's allowed me to kind of bridge these two worlds of mysticism and healing and yoga with like social justice and violence prevention and healing, healing the planet, which are all, I think, interconnected.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so glad I asked you that question, because I don't think I've ever heard that story put in such a, I mean, you can definitely tell you're a poet in your words. Like, I love that whiplash back and forth from different cultures of like reverse culture shock is a definite thing. And to do that as a child, wow, like the expansion of your mind and what's going on in the world, like really started so young, which explains a lot of how like much you've achieved in your life because of like starting that young. And also, like what you said about immersing yourself in learning, like that is a huge thing that I love, and why I obviously am very passionate about festivals, because I feel like, it's in a short amount of time, you can learn from so many people from so many backgrounds that have expertise in something that maybe you wouldn't have access to. So thanks for sharing all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. I love what you're saying about festivals, and it's definitely an immersive learning opportunity if you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the festival, but obviously ones with workshops and that are centered on healing are ones that, would probably get the most out of like the learning aspect. And also, music has such a, I don't know the word to describe the learning that goes in just from, hearing music, and like how the brain changes and can change with just, well, I know it can change with 3 days in nature. But to combine all these other things too, it's very special. So I'm very honored to have your experience and your wise humanness at Flow Jam this year. I don't know why I said humanness, because what just kind of came out. So,
Well, I'm here as a lifelong learner, and for me, it's always just about pulling out the knowledge from a space.
Mhm.
I feel like so much of what's ahead of us right now is really, it's really tapping in to our greatest potential, right? And figuring out how to like bring kindness and compassion back into the world. I think spaces like this can be really inspiring, like when you can be in community with other people that really care about your well-being. I think I train a lot of teachers within these frameworks of peace education and social emotional learning, but also yoga. I'm a part of a lot of yoga teacher training programs, and I feel like the most important quality for a teacher is to really, be humbly wanting and wishing for the best for their students, right? Like that is powerful when you're in spaces with people that really care about your fulfillment, your self-realization, putting the egos aside and just like, yeah, like we're here together in this experience of life, which is difficult. It's difficult to be alive, right, Meredith? Like I think sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves and forget just how challenging it is to navigate relationships and people and the internet and just, the pressures of living in the world today require an extra level of sensitivity and mindfulness, and that those are tools, that that we need, and that are not being taught enough in our schools. Like our children don't really get to learn this stuff, which is really, I think, a big challenge in front of us. It's like, how do we gain the social emotional skills we need to thrive in the world, not just survive, but to actually like thrive in the world. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow. Hearing you talk is like, I never want it to end. So I'm really glad you're emceeing because then I get to hear you talk. But yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I was just thinking to myself earlier about like, you know, even when life is like really great, it can be still hard to live it, you know. Even earlier today, I was like, I have a lot. There's a lot, you know, it's a lot. It can be anything, but so these healing tools and practices that you teach to other students and teachers obviously has a ripple effect, and one common unity. I saw that ripple effect happening and change happening very quickly, quickly as in like people's awareness shifting. Obviously implementation takes a bit longer, but so I don't want to take too much more of your time. I just want to share with everyone where they can find you. What's Hawah's information? How can we connect with you? And what's happening next for you besides, you know, what we're going to be doing at Flow Jam, which June 8th through the 11th, tickets on sale, flowjamfestival.com. But yes, where can we find you and how can we connect with you and what's next?
Which is like, I think less than 75 minutes from where I am right now at Roots to Sky. I think you're like less than 90 minutes away, which I'm excited about.
We're done. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find me, you can find me online, of course, Hawah Kaasat, HAWAH You can use that name on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, although I'm not really too active on the TikTok yet. So you can find me online. I've got a link tree that will have all of my upcoming events and retreats. I'm leading silent meditation retreats at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health in Massachusetts. I have one coming up that starts in 10 days. If anybody wants to make a last minute plunge into 4 days of silence, you could join me at Kripalu for a silent meditation retreat from May 26th to May 29th. And then I'm back there again in October, leading another silent meditation retreat. So those are some ways to find me. I'm traveling, I'm teaching in Colorado over the summer. We're hosting a festival here at Roots to Sky right before the Flow Jam Festival. So on my link tree, you can find all that, and on my website, hawah.us, which is my first name, .us.
Sweet. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, have I been pronouncing your last name wrong this whole time?
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, I think that, most people pronounce it Kaasat.
Kaasat.
Kaasat, which is okay. It's not correct.
Oh, wait, what is the correct?
It's actually Kaasat. Like, think of like Kalima, Sut, like Sut,
Okay.
like Satyagraha or Sat in Sanskrit means truth. So Kaasat. So it's not like Kaasat is, I think, what a lot of people say, but it's Kaasat. Kaasat is what I said. But it's funny because there's actually people in my family that pronounce it the way that most Westerners pronounce it. So I don't really, I'm attached to my first name. I want that pronounced correctly, but you do, so that's fine.
Great. Okay, well, it has been such a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for everyone tuning in. We have a lot of people to wave to on on Instagram, and
On
so
IG the whole time? I should have been, can I like jointly share it on my IG? Or is it too late? for that?
yeah, we're gonna repost and tag you and share it, and then we're also gonna put the link on our YouTube and send it to you so that you can share it
Amazing.
in your on your stuff, because I think this was an amazing conversation. To anyone who wants to know a little bit deeper into Hawah's life and how he became who he is and what he's doing at Flow Jam, please rewatch this video from the beginning, because we talked a lot about some pretty cool, amazing things that he's been up to. So I'm excited to see you in June, and thank you so much for your time. We will see you later.
Yes. Peace, everybody. See you at Flow Jam.
Yes. Okay.